Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I hope you're staying safe, wearing a mask, and taking care of those closest to you. I'm coming to you from the anarchist jurisdiction of New York City, as was proclaimed today by the Department of Justice. And if anybody is out there looking for a sick new name for their hardcore punk band, I think I've found it for you. I really need to write a song called that for my band, because that name is just too good, despite the circumstances and the implications behind it. This is going to be an exciting day on the show. I apologize if I sound a little under the weather. It recently became fall-like weather in New York City. We're down in the 60s, and as my wife has pointed out to me, whenever the seasons change, I feel under the weather for about a week. That is how I know that the calendar is moving forward. But it's an exciting day on the show because I'm completing what I've dubbed the Goalkeeper hat trick, in that with today's episode, I will have interviewed every single member of Philly, Pennsylvania area, Philly, New Jersey area pop punk band Goalkeeper. I started with their guitarist Mark last week for the release week of their new EP, Life in Slow Motion, which if you haven't checked it out yet, you can hear it wherever you stream your music. Spoke to Cody, their drummer. And today on the show, my guest is the bassist and vocalist for Goalkeeper, Ryan Beebe, who is somebody that I've vibed with like very hard. We have a lot of the same like musical influences as far as Touchstone albums, kind of the same general approach to bass guitar, and it was just a really cool, interesting chat with a cool guy whose band I really love, and I'm looking forward to seeing, maybe playing with in the future. And there's a lot of talk in here about creativity, as well as the band's approach to songwriting, as well as the new EP. And I'm thinking that you guys are going to really enjoy this. So I appreciate that you guys are here. If you listen to this and think you have a friend who might be interested in this podcast as well, we are available wherever you get your podcast. That's Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. And we did shows, and the show is recently now available on Amazon Music. So if you use that for music, you can use that for podcasts now as well, and you can listen to the show there as well. And there's a lot of great pop punk talk in this conversation as well. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I thank you for being here. And let's go to my chat with Ryan Beebe of Goalkeeper. Yes, I did. Mark was the first person I interviewed, and I have my episode with Cody ready to go for next Monday. And Kevin said he'd do it, and then all I have to do is hear from Seb, and then I'll have talked to everybody involved with the creation of Life in Slow Motion.
I'm glad you're pumped, man. I'm glad you're doing it. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, because when the algorithm gods put Happy in my recommendations, I enjoyed it instantly, and mostly because, and I'm gonna give you all the credit for this, as somebody who has a naturally kind of deeper singing voice myself, I was excited to hear someone like closer to my register singing pop punk, because for the longest time I thought, because I can't get that through the nose Tom DeLonge sound, that I've got no future in this genre of music. So I was really like gravitated to your singing style right away, man.
Dude, thank you. Yeah, that's one of the things that I learned very, very quickly, like when I started singing, namely because when we started out as a band, we actually started out we did like a cover show, and we were called the Pizzas. We were like a pop punk cover band. It wasn't even a cover show. It was like my band, Mark's band, and Cody's band all kind of stopped at the same time, and then like Mark wanted to play a show, but he didn't really have a band, so it was like, let's just put together this cover thing and, get into it. And I was trying to sing like a Newfound Glory song. I think, My Friend's Over You or something like that. And I was just like, God damn it, this is not happening. Like, my voice is too low. You know what I mean? So, and Mark Hoppus is one of my favorite people in the world. You know what I mean? So
yeah, me too.
Naturally, like, I was drawn to him, and I think I'd like to think I'm more of an aggressive, like, singer, I guess, like with like how I push my voice, but a lot of that's more just me not really knowing how to sing and like trying to like,
Sure.
we end up writing pop punk songs that are like, like, kind of in my range, but barely. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
no.
it's funny.
Yeah, totally. Like I remember in the before times I went to like a pop punk karaoke night. Like some band would just play like a because they're showing my age here. I feel that they're like standards for pop
Mm-hmm.
punk right now. Like Sugar We're Going Down, Damn It, Ocean
Mm-hmm.
Avenue. So they were like playing all those, and I got up there to sing Damn It, and I think I remember reading that Hoppus kind of was straining to hit the notes when they were recording Dude Ranch. So I relate completely, man. I wanted to ask you because Mark mentioned this briefly when we chatted. Do you guys play in E or do you tune down?
We tune down.
What do you
Um,
play in?
we play in drop C sharp.
Oh, okay. So the A
Yeah.
Day to Remember range.
Yeah, and we do like all of our songs in the studio are recorded at drop C sharp. The live, there's certain songs that we play in C, so we'll actually drop the tuning live and play it in C. Just because,
Gotcha.
like, if I tried to sing it, like, I'll just blow my voice out.
Yeah,
But
yeah, totally. Yeah, and that kind of ends the show if that happens.
mhm.
Is that something that like when you did you come to that when Goalkeeper first started or playing lower, or did that kind of develop over time?
um, so in high school when I was in my high school bands, we played in standard and then like drop D.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like where I set because I'm not necessarily like a music nerd in the sense that I like learn tunings. Like I don't really know how to read music or anything. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I play mostly by ear and by feeling and by like tabs. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
me too.
Yeah. So I didn't really know that there was more like tunings that would be like you could just tune it all down. You know what I mean? So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until the band I was in right before Goalkeeper I learned about drop C. And then when we went into Goalkeeper, it just kind of naturally made sense to do that because we wanted to have like a heavier sound, like a grittier, not grittier, but necessarily, but just certainly heavier sound, like a neck deep. You know what I mean? Like how their guitars are heavy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? A Day to Remember, another one that we love. We didn't want to have like breakdowns and stuff, but like we wanted to be like heavier, so it made sense. I have suggested doing like drop like A or something like a Slipknot or something, but Mark can't bear himself to tune his guitar down that much. So
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, or I guess maybe you'd have to convince them to get a seven string. It's like, what other pop punk band uses seven or eight strings? Um,
yeah, really.
I've been having some fun with lower tunings because mostly because after talking to Mark as well, I got that Digitech drop pedal so that you don't even
Yeah,
have to tune like reset up your guitar with like 13 gauge strings.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I picked up on like, and that was something else that kind of grabbed me as well. Is that all of the melodies on Goalkeeper stuff? It's all very those kind of like classic pop punk kind of melodies and moves, but playing it in that lower in those lower tunings, I found really interesting. I think, and I feel like that's a
Hmm.
relatively recent thing that has started happening, like in maybe like the last like 5 or 6 years or so.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I think like pop punk, like especially in the last 5, 10 years, I mean, has been really has been like really influenced by like the hardcore scene. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like very fast, kind of heavy, and then as things evolved. I mean, you had bands like 4 Year Strong, and A Day to Remember. Still, they get pigeonholed as pop punk, even though I think they're more of a metal band. You know what I mean? Or like
Yeah, they have more
um,
metal moves and
right,
stuff to their
exactly. Like
songs.
that.
Yeah.
Like I would say somewhere between 4 Year Strong and A Day to Remember. That's where it lies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like there was some heavy stuff, and then Easy Core. You know what I mean? Like that was the whole
Uh-huh.
thing. I love Easy Core, by the way. Chunk Hood Captain Chunk like is incredible. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
oh yeah, exactly. Chunk No Captain Chunk. Uh, I'm blanking.
Abandoned by Bears. Maybe
Abandoned
another
by
good one.
Bears. Yes, I would. I
Mhm.
kind of put Beartooth in that same category.
Okay.
Also, even if they are a little more metal tinged. I also put and of course, like my one of my top five favorite bands of all time is Newfound Glory, and they were like
Mm.
they coined the term
Easy core. Yeah.
easy core. Yeah, I remember like. Dude, I'm loving this conversation already. I remember like it's interesting that you bring up this a relatively recent thing. An analogy I use a lot is like I always equate like the pop punk I grew up on as like a really sugary coffee drink, and then maybe like easy core is like, okay, I'm gonna try it with just cream and no sugar, and then when you get down to like Earth Crisis and like Madball and all that stuff, that's like an eyedropper of water, and then you just drop it onto a single coffee bean. Like that's like the hard stuff.
Yeah. No, dude, that's hilarious that you say that because you're absolutely right. Like about that like spectrum, you know what I mean, of like hop and like metal and everything. Like one thing that I actually recently started trying to acquire taste for was like deathcore,
Uh huh.
like uh
Suicide
cattle
Silence.
decapitation, like stuff like
Yeah.
that. And like fortunately I was friends with somebody who like gave me a lot of really good recommendations, so I just started listening to it. And like I'll tell you what, man, you need to be in a different headspace to like really enjoy that stuff. But like once you're able to kind of like flip that switch, like it took me like one Brand of Sacrifice song to
Uh huh.
like for it to kind of flip in my head to be like, okay, now that I'm in it, I can get it. You know what I mean? Like, and some is better than others, but like, I think it's so important too, just to have that, like, be able to appreciate, you know, black coffee versus, like a cup of Jane. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. If anything, and anybody listening to this, it makes the music that you're going to create a lot more well-rounded. I think because if you're
mhm,
pulling from all these different elements, you're gonna end up sounding more unique yourself because you're pulling from a different thing, from different
mhm.
things. So you didn't grow up on like really heavy music. It sounds like.
Uh, yes and no. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of started out like when I first started really listening to music for myself. I kind of started out really heavy, believe it or not,
Uh
because
huh.
I was like growing up. At first, it was like, my dad was a DJ or is a DJ, but he also did party stuff. And back then, they had to carry, sacks and sacks of CDs.
Yeah.
So I would like listen to anything like that had a cool album art, or Dookie was one of the first pop punk albums I ever listened to back when like Time of Your Life, Good Riddance was being, it
Ooh.
was the hot song,
Yeah.
and and my love affair with Blink 182 started when I went and to one of his DJ parties, and he was doing a campground, and they played Blink, like all the small things, and
Uh huh.
then literally the entire crowd, like whether you were like 8 or whether you were like 65, was singing "Work Sucks." I
I
know,
know.
you know what I mean. So like that kind of set the stage for me. But like I didn't listen. I just listened to whatever, you know what I mean. But
Mm-hmm.
like in terms of like really discovering my music taste, uh, I actually in 6th grade I got into Ozzy Osbourne.
Uh huh.
So like I started kind of like in that hard rock, classic rock, like but
Sure.
like the darker stuff like first. But then I would say I got into pop punk, like I got into pop punk heavy like around when Untitled came out, like 2001,
Mm-hmm.
Blink 182. And that's kind of like when I was like really deep into that, and I got out of that like around like Good Charlotte. Like my thing is I think Good Charlotte ruined pop punk's reputation because they got too big and were too much of a fucking dick about being big. You know what I mean? Especially when you write
Sure.
songs like Lifestyles are Rich of the Famous. But
Yeah. That song. I
but
feel
like
like.
I do also want to say Good Charlotte's music fucks. Sorry if I'm not allowed to
Oh,
curse
you,
on
you
the
can you can curse.
okay. But like their music honks, but like it's what they did outside of the music, I think, that kind of took a tailspin. So that's when I got into like uh like screamo music.
Sure. Like
You know what I mean?
your senses fails. Atreyu.
Yeah. Yep.
That the used
Exactly.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
And then Attack was like a big one for me.
Ah,
Like,
yes, Stick Stigley.
yep.
the
Yep.
the the
And so
whole
I was part of
crabcore
that.
thing.
and then I came back. I came out of that when the Wonder Years and 4 Year Strong were putting out like Upsides and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And the other, I forget the 4 Year Strong album off the top of my head, but yeah, like Upsides era of Wonder Years when I got back into pop punk. But again, like doing all that, I have like an appreciation for pretty much anything except for like Broken Side. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I'm
just
not
like,
like Broken Side, and this is I'm borrowing a thought that I heard Finn McKinty say, if you hear this, Finn.
Mhm.
But Broken Side were like, I feel like they kind of started the template for what's called emo rap now, or that sort
Right.
of like that mishmash of like alternative music and hip hop that's being done right now. I sound like such an old man talking about this, but I remember really not liking that Broken
Mhm.
Side song the first time I heard it, but when I relate to what you're saying because my musical tastes like were kind of all over the place, and I feel like I gravitated culturally towards like pop punk people more so, and like pop punk dudes and pop punk ladies, because I was like when I first started getting into music, I was like really into to horrorcore. Like
Mhm.
I had like a juggalo phase for a little bit. I never looked the part.
Nice.
Never looked the part, but I definitely listened to the music, and then I was also listening to like a ton of new metal, like Stained
Dude,
and
yeah.
Korn and things like that. And then I also my first guitar hero before I started like going back and discovering like Randy Rhoads and Maiden was Mark Tremonti. I thought he was just the end all be all of guitar shredding players, but
Hmm.
I fell out of it because and like I guess it's more of a culture thing. Like pop punk people were just always like the chillest, nicest people, and I feel like I could like I don't know if I could go to like a Five Finger Death Punch song and express a nuanced opinion about the government,
Right. Yeah.
if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Dude, I totally get that because, the pop punk I know is really, that run that Blink 182 went on between Enema of the State or even like Dude Ranch, but really like Enema of the State to like Untitled. You know what I mean? Like that three
Mm-hmm.
album run right there, I think, like they were always known as being like funny. They were, punks, because they like skateboarding and they,
Yeah.
they had a video of them getting out of a van that was, had weed smoke out of it, and
Mm-hmm.
then, also around that time, you also had like, pop punk was like mainstream culture, you know what I
Yeah. It
mean?
was like
Like,
top 10 Billboard. It was everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, and like people forget that like a lot of the movies back then, like American Pie is like the biggest example.
Yeah.
That like, especially like American Pie 2, I think, whichever one they're at the beach in Michigan. They have like a
Mm-hmm.
beach party in their house in Michigan, and all the songs are like Sum 41, Simple Plan,
Yeah.
Lit, like
Totally.
basically anything you'd hear at any like, any like, cover band bar. You know what I mean? Like all those songs.
Exactly.
So
If the cast is like graduating high school and or trying to get laid, that's the
yeah,
soundtrack.
right. Yeah, exactly. Right. And like, I think it'd be, I think for us specifically, I mean, that's where our heart's at with Goalkeeper. I mean, I don't think our songs are like, they're certainly not like First Date or something like that by Blink,
Mm-hmm.
but like, I'd like to think that we kind of have some of that fun in that. That's what I like. That's what I love about the genre. The fact that like it's just about like crushing a few beers and hanging out. It doesn't matter who you are. You know what I memean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's start some shit, but like, not too much shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like a reasonable amount of shit. Let's start that, and then
Hmm.
when you're ready to overthrow the government, there's Minor Threat and Anti-Flag, who I love all those
Hmm.
bands too.
Yeah.
Um, dude, like I'm vibing with you so hard right now because I remember that same 3 album run with Blink. I remember getting Now 3. Now
Mm.
that's what I call music volume 3 because I wanted to listen to All Star by Smash Mouth, and then eventually hearing What's My Age Again and was like, oh, I want to get that. And then after I was able to convince my mom to buy me Enema of the State and I heard Dumpweed, I was like, oh, I got to start playing an instrument. I want to make this sound. Um,
Yeah.
were you attracted to wanting to play bass initially, or did that come later?
No, actually, for similar reasons as you, That's what I wanted to get into, playing guitar, but it was more listening to like the way that Tom and Blink would like interweave like different, like power chords and octaves,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I wanted to like create that ambiance, that feeling of like, bigness, you know what I mean? And like, because
Yeah.
it's literally just riffing with octaves over top of a power chord thing.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, that's what really drew me into that. But like what's funny is with Goalkeeper, this is my first project that I've been playing bass, and I already have, like, realized like, dude, I shouldn't have been a fucking guitarist. Like I should have been a bassist. Like,
Uh-huh.
this is actually more of what I like to do, because I don't necessarily like, I don't it wasn't I didn't want to be like a Clapton, you know what I mean, or a Jimi Hendrix, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I just wanted to play like enough to be able to play like riffs on like, like pop punk riffs, and maybe the occasional like thing here and there like that's impressive, but I'm not going to learn Freebird, you know what I mean? Like that's not my bag. So I
Sure.
decided to like just like focused on like rhythm, and so as soon as I picked up bass, I was like, god damn, this is what I usually do anyway. So I'm really liking bass right now. I think I might like I use guitar to write the music, but I
Hmm.
really like playing bass live and being a bassist, believe it or not.
Oh no, I know exactly what you mean. The band I'm in right now, I'm playing bass for the first time, and I'm having a really great time like learning and adapting to like the role that plays. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love just like like root note or fifths, just like cha 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 cha. But on the occasion when I can throw in like a little, because my guitarist just loves like weird scale, like unusual sounding scales and snaky sounding stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so I have to double a lot of those. So every time I
Mm-hmm.
can like keep up with that, I feel pretty psyched. I also uh especially for the new EP, I think your bass tone on the new EP is incredible, man, because it has that like, because I don't love a ton of, I guess, ton of bass in bass guitar. Like I like that sort of like mid
Mm-hmm.
range. I feel like you kind of hit that like that Mark Hoppus kind of like mid range focused,
Mm-hmm.
highs focused bass tone on the new EP.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to have like every time I've gone to the studio, I've never been like picky about my bass tone, because I'm just like Mark Hoppus but grittier. Like that's basically like what I want. And it's like really it's mostly, that like, bubbly kind of, sound that Mark Hoppus has. But then what we do is we just add like a tiny bit more grit to it, just to kind of give it more of an electric kind of like, like buzz sound,
Mm-hmm.
but not too much to where it like overpowers it. You know what I mean? Because I don't necessarily want to have like a distorted bass. Like I just
Yeah,
want something that rumbles a little bit, like kind of gets like a grr. You know what
yeah,
I
like a
mean?
little growl. Totally.
Right, exactly. And I think the pedal we used when we were in the studio, Mark's gonna kill me for forgetting.
Was
It
it
wasn't a
the?
Sans amp, but I have a Sans amp now, and that does exactly what you wanted to do.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah. But like, on the first on Bad Times Don't Last, the one before the one we're about to put out, Life in Slow Motion, it was we used the Dark Glass like bass
yes.
thing,
I've
and that
heard
was
good
really
things
dope
about
too.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really dope too. I can't believe I'm forgetting what the name of that bass thing is.
Yeah.
Whatever. Mark will probably he'll let everybody know.
Yeah, he'll message me on Facebook probably. It's like, oh, it's actually this.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
oh, no, yeah, totally, man. I've heard great things about the dark glass, and then especially like I really want to get a P bass with a maple neck, because
Mm,
I just think P basses are like the sound
mm,
for good bass guitar. Um, so it sounds great. It sounds great, dude.
yeah.
I really dug it. So the dark glass. Okay,
Well,
so
the Sans amp is definitely what like you should get, like, because it's way cheaper than the Dark Glass. I mean, the Dark Glass is dope if you have money to burn and like
mhm.
you really want a really nice sound. But like the Sans amp, dude, I can't even tell you. Like the moment I plug that thing in, like it's like with the P bass specifically, it just sounds like it's supposed to be together. You know what I mean? So
I
that's the one that I would actually recommend for anybody who's trying to get that like Mark Hoppusy bass tone. Get the Sans amp and then see what you want to do from there. You know what I mean? Because a dark glass is kind of expensive.
It is, and I'll back up what Ryan's saying, because I have a Sans app also, and literally I clicked it on at like a practice, and I was like, oh, I sound way better than I have any business sounding. And the
Yeah.
great thing about this, I have this, and the great thing about the Sans app is it's a direct box, so you don't even really need an amp. You could go through the PA
Hmm.
if you needed to,
Yeah.
which which for if you're well if touring ever happens again, dear listener, save some space in the van, save some space in the van.
Hmm.
Where did you grow up? I Mark and Cody are gonna kill me because they told me as well, but you're all kind of from the general like Del Mar, like Pennsylvania, uh, New Jersey
Actually, it's
area, yeah.
like more like South Jersey.
South Jersey, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark's from Delco, so he's the only one from Pennsylvania. Um, Cody lives in Salem, New Jersey, which is basically like Delaware Memorial Bridge
Mm-hmm.
area.
I know it well.
And then I'm originally from like Ocean City, New Jersey.
Okay,
So, like South, like Cape May County, New Jersey. And currently I live in Stone Harbor. So,
gotcha. So
just all the way down in Cape May County.
so is that like near the beach?
Yeah, I live 2 blocks from the beach.
Okay, that's not a bad place to be, because man, like every 90% of the great bands, especially in like the kind of in this kind of scene, are all from New Jersey. It's just a
Yeah.
breeding ground for this kind of band.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, if you're talking about like the pop punk stuff, the newest pop punk stuff, like us, like Friend Circle,
Hmm.
like bands like that. Yeah, like yeah, their Friend Circle's from like the Millville Island area, which is still South Jersey, but like really where the bands come out of is like right outside of Philly. Like Philly's really where it's at. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
there's like, if you go into like the Jersey suburbs, like like Cherry Hill, you
Yeah.
know, Oakland, like Morristown, like that area. Like there's a lot of people who do that, especially too up in New Brunswick,
Hmm.
like which is a little bit more north, like up more Trenton, near Trenton.
Yeah.
And then also in Philly, and then in the surrounding area on the other side too. Like that's really like the scenes there are incredible. You know what I mean? And like, well, the level of quality in the bands is incredible. I mean, there's so many good bands that are around here. And then like down in South Jersey, there used to be more of a scene, but that's the reason why I committed to guys who live up closer to Philly, because like
Hmm.
there really isn't much going on. Like even if I wanted to start a band, really, and I was down here, it would make more sense for me to do like a cover band or like something like that, because outside of
Yeah.
like Atlantic City, there's not many places you can play down here. So
Yeah, exactly. You kind of need like some people that are kind of doing their own thing, because
hmm.
yeah, because bars just kind of like, can you just play what's being played on the radio right now, and we'll give you
Yeah.
50 bucks. Um, yeah, that's kind of what it was like where I'm from. Although when I was in high school, there was like a 2 to 3 year window where there was like a few bands that would like hold shows every other month, and those were super inspiring times. They were all
Hmm.
like at the like Armory, so
Yeah.
so like the kind of places where like if you try to like jump or have any kind of fun, people just like big muscular dudes will come and like like
Oh yeah.
squeeze your head off your shoulders. But okay, so you're growing up in Jersey, and so Dookie is what you're getting exposed to pop punk through Dookie. Do you remember a specific moment when you were introduced to, I guess, what would be your local scene, and realize that I'm going to be in a band? Was there a moment like that for you?
um I don't really know. So I started playing guitar when I was like in like fifth grade,
Mm-hmm.
fifth grade, and then maybe fifth grade, and then the friends I had, like the friends I hung out with, like naturally, like I actually played sports with one of them, and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. Like they all went to like the local School of Rock thing. So
Oh,
like
really?
my parents didn't want to send me there because they thought I was going to be an athlete.
Okay.
So you know, which I had a lot of fun playing sports, but like
What did you play?
I really wanted to be in a band. You know what I mean? And so like,
Mm-hmm.
or at least
Totally.
like play that kind of music. And so they all would jam at my buddy's house, and I would go over there and jam. So I was in a band like in like seventh grade,
Uh-huh.
sixth, seventh grade. And then, but like we only played like one show, and it was like it was like a, rock, it's like a school of rock thing.
Uh-huh. Like a
Um,
graduation show or something.
yeah, like something weird like that.
Uh-huh.
I remember playing it, but I remember it being like really, really weird. It was like 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
like kind of like how the actual like movie is. Um, but like, no, but like that was like the first kind of experience I had with that. And then what was funny was we went to record, and the guy who was kind of like the like he was the lead guitarist, and he wrote a lot of the music. When I sang on it, within the first 30 seconds, he ran into the room and was like, "Get out! You're not singing." I was like, "What?" He didn't even give me a chance to warm up. And he's like, "No, you're not singing. Like, your voice is awful." I was like, "Oh,
Ouch.
really?" Yeah. So confidence killed there.
I
But
hate
then I
shit
ended
like
up
that.
meeting a friend through, from wearing band T-shirts like my freshman year of high school, and me and him ended up starting like a garage jam band
Uh-huh.
that we ended up playing like two shows or something like that. But it was more about like messing around, having fun. But it was also like my first like we couldn't like pick a band name, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that was a bad thing. That's one thing I always say is like uh, if you can't select a name for your project with the people you're working on it with, like you shouldn't be working on it with those people. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you got to have compromise and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but like at the same time, they were my best friends. So, we still had a lot of fun. We played a couple shows at like one of the high schools in the area. But like they were like cover shows. They weren't like original stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went away to college and I didn't really do a lot of like music stuff. Like for like a little, I still have my guitar and stuff, but I wasn't playing in bands.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't until I graduated college where one of my friends was in a pop punk band in the local scene. And then when I was in high school, there was a scene that I participated in. Like I was like, you know, I would take photos at the things like the VFW shows where they pack
Uh-huh.
like 200 kids in a fucking room,
Oh, I remember
like
him well. And there's like
yeah,
one
exactly,
the whole show's run on like one extension cord, and hopefully no
right,
one
yeah,
trips over it. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
exactly. Yeah, like I was at those shows. We had a pretty good scene back then, but it all dissipated, because nobody kept it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that was like the biggest bummer about it. But like I said, I'm fortunate that I got exposed to a whole new scene up in Philly, and that's why, I felt like I could, invest the time and do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And is that the scene that you found Cody and Mark through?
Yeah, yeah. It's like the Philly. It's the Philly South Jersey scene. Yeah, it's like I met Cody's band at a show outside of Philly and on the New Jersey side, and we stayed close. And then I met Mark through Cody's band, and Mark used to book shows at a place called the Fire in Philly,
Mm-hmm.
and we would all play shows at the Fire together. Like, well, Mark didn't. I think Mark was kind of in between bands at that point, but he would book the show. Eternal Boy or the Space, they used to be called the Space Pimps, used to headline,
Uh-huh.
and then it'd be like us, like my band, Cody's band, and then like a few other bands that would all play the same show every time.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it
Yeah.
was be like once or twice a year, and then yeah, right when like my band kind of like slowed to a stop, and then Cody's band was getting ready to break up, and Mark's project like kind of fell out the window.
Yeah.
Um, we all were like, okay, like we got the show coming up. Do you want to, play a cover set? Because it might be cool if we all play together. And people loved it. And then we were like, all right, let's practice again. And then we haven't stopped practicing since. So, it's kind of worked out.
Yeah. That's great, man. And then to see where you guys are now, and where I see you guys going, to start from like like maybe like a one-off like pizza, the pizza thing, which again, like pizza and pop punk are again like this like just right there. I it's that's very, very cool. The other thing I'm very impressed with you guys is your approach to the music business in 2019, 2020. I find it like a very kind of adult way of like a
Mhm.
professional way of approaching this. So when Goalkeeper gets together, is is the plan like we'll put out one song at a time and then and slowly build it? Is was that a conscious thought that you guys had?
Um, it wasn't designed like that to be like that, but that's how it kind of worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So, so one of the things that I realized early on, because like when my job outside of the band is basically like social media marketing, website content production, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the things I noticed with like a lot of bands, and I also went to school for art, so like I
Uh
can
huh.
do like camera work, I can take photos, I can I can make videos. I'm not like the best at any of them, but I can do it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so when we first started, I said, if I'm going to do this, like I want to do this right, and I have a feeling that the more active you are on social media and more content that you're able to put out, you know the more you can at least like keep building the momentum. And so like our first initial thought was like when we had like I think we had like four songs.
Mm-hmm.
The first four songs we had off of Gut Feeling and Screwdriver, even though they were all supposed to be on the same record, but we
Mm-hmm.
ended up having to go to a different company for the last one because stuff happened.
Right.
um but anyway, those four songs, they were all more like, okay, we're gonna like we had all four of those songs, and then we were like, okay, let's just do like a video, for cheap, and then like put it out, and then we'll just like keep putting YouTube videos out or whatever,
Yeah.
and we'll see how it goes. And it at first it was pretty good, and then we kind of realized like, in order to up the quality, we need to get a video guy. And so we
Yeah.
hired one of Mark's friends to do the Screwdriver video. No, I'm sorry, Pong Partners was the first one. We hired my friend Ben to do that one. He shot it, I edited it, so we
Uh huh.
saved money on that. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
but like, because I was able to kind of do that early on, it kind of set a precedent for what we should do later on. So, like, with Bad Times Don't Last and the new album Life in Slow Motion, we definitely thought like, okay, let's try to write like an EP. But I guess
Mm-hmm.
early on, the way we just because of the way we distributed it, it kind of made sense to just keep doing a music video and see if it kicked off. Because like
Yeah.
if everybody thought we sucked, then it's like, okay, we saved some money, and we're not broke or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
like things started building, and we were like, okay, let's invest a little bit more money into this now. And now I'm really stoked about the team that we've been able to network and like work together with, because this new video, I don't know when this is going to air, but the video for Graveyard that we're about to put out on September 25th is my favorite, hands down. And it's definitely the most involved one we've done. Sunshine was a production, that was also a production, but this one, we really took the mistakes that we made in Sunshine and like made it like exactly how we wanted it in the Graveyard video. So I'm really pumped about that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it too. And to let you know, I'll put this out. Cody's I'll have out the week that the EP comes out earlier in the week, and then I'll put yours out like the next week. So this will be like right after the video comes out. And
Okay.
I'm very excited to see this new video because well, the Just Say It video I thought was great as well. Like the use of color in that
Mm-hmm.
video. I thought was really aesthetically pleasing, and then also quite funny, like including like the little technical glitches, and then like you
Mm-hmm.
kind of getting hit with a pie, and but not really. Like it's those kinds of like fun little imperfections uh, that I find very charming because, and then especially with music because it's very easy now to make everything sound very perfect, and
Mm-hmm.
I think when you have those like those little fun bits, it makes it feel a little bit more human.
Yes, no, you're absolutely 100% right. Um, that's something that we didn't really struggle with it at first. I think Mark kind of struggled with it more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also, I basically stand up and just do this the whole time live. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I
yeah,
can't really do a lot of stuff, but we were, everybody says you got to play like really tight, or you got to be like obviously you need to be tight. And the
Hmm.
biggest thing is your drummer needs to be on a click, because if you're not in time, the music doesn't vibe. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like outside of that, as long as you're in time, it is like those little nuancy things that happen in between stuff. Or like, when I miss a bass note and I like make like a ooh like face, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that, like I've learned that if I just accept it and like play off of it, like people like that more than me like just flubbing and then like realizing I'm flubbing and then I flub even more and then I like totally break down on stage, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, no, totally. Um, I kind of feel I, I am exactly. I'm attracted to that kind of stuff. And as long as like, again, yeah, as long as you're kind of more or less together, that's the exciting thing about live shows. Like,
mhm.
I feel the same way about doing stand up. Like when I started doing stand up, I would go up and basically do a script that I had planned out.
Mhm.
And now I do it on like maybe like a 70-30. Like I have
Yeah.
I haven't a plan, but I give myself the freedom to allow for other things to happen, but that a lot of that comes with confidence, and also the fact that
Mhm.
now the only places I can do shows are parks and parking lots.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Like, I think I think I saw in your bio, like when like when we were setting this up, that you were a comedian. But like, real talk, that's actually something that I've considered, like I've thought about for a long time, because I love comedians. Like, I
uh
love
huh.
comics. I love stand up comedy. I watch the Joe Rogan podcast all the time, so he talks about stand up and has stand up
Mm-hmm.
on all the time. Um, and I've always wanted to try to do it, but I've always been like too nervous to do it. You know what I mean?
Uh huh.
Like, because you really got it. Like, you kind of have to really know what you're saying, at least have a clear idea of what you want to say, right? Like, I guess some guys
Yes.
can go up there and riff, but like, or just make fun of the crowd. But
I've
like,
always viewed that as a I've always viewed that as a way to get around having to write, like just doing all improv. And I have found like Bill Burr is very great at going out with like just the germ of an idea and exploring it on stage. I find
mhm.
I'm better when I think it out a little bit more and I can come, because those are the kinds of comedians I was attracted to, like joke writers like Mitch Hedberg or Dimitri
Oh,
Martin,
Mitch Hedberg
Anthony
was the
Jeselnik.
bomb.
Oh yeah, he's my all time favorite comedian still to this day.
The
Um,
fact that he can make you laugh in so little words is the best thing. Like, he just has like the way he says it, the words he puts to use in the sentence are just like fantastic. You know
mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, it's just so like, God, he's so funny.
Yeah, I really I still will go back to those three albums of his, and if I
Hmm.
haven't heard him for a while, I'll just be like, still, burritos the sleeping bag for ground beef. Yeah, it is. It's just too it's just
My
too
favorite
perfect.
is I think it's, I'm gonna butcher this, so I really apologize to Mitch Hedberg, but it's something along the lines of like um escalator out of order signs are not useful. It's
I
like
I know
it
the one
should
you're
be
going.
escalators temporarily stairs.
Yeah, I like escalators because an escalator can never break. It can only
Right.
become stairs.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, uh, yeah. That joke is just
Oh,
so
and the
so
and
so
the
so
the
perfect.
and the fire exit one, where he's like, sir, you're blocking a fire exit. And he's like, well, it's not like I'm not going to move. Like, if there's
Uh huh.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that to me like and to me like this the same thing. And I wonder if and I sometimes think that because I love like 3 chord and like 4 chord rock music that I'm attracted to that. Like, what's the what's the least amount of material needed to get my point across?
Yeah.
Um and I've been trying to think about that in terms of songwriting as well, because when I was first started playing guitar, I and writing songs, I had a tendency to have very long intros because I was trying to avoid having to sing for as long as
Hmm.
possible. I think, and I had a lot of parts that maybe didn't make a ton of sense for like the core of the song. I don't know Because you say you write on you and Cody, you write on guitar, and you I know you write with Cody. Is that something that you've ever had to work on as well, kind of like condensing down?
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit. Well, yeah, I would say I'm a little bit better at it than Cody is, but I also so the dynamic that me and Cody have is actually pretty great because he brings a lot of really complex ideas and interesting, like, like kind of, intricate and more involved, like art. Like his music or his ideas are more like artistic, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
and mine are more like straight and to the point a little
Sure.
bit. And so like sometimes mine will be too straight to the point. So then we'll, he'll bring like or shine some light on maybe a different way we can do it. Or
Yeah.
like if his ideas are too complicated or like too crazy, I try to say, let's trim off some of the fat and, make this into something really nice. And that's where I think we get, why we've been like, you know, doing, writing the songs we have, really just because like of that balance of like, what's too, creative and crazy. Because one of the things I've really realized, especially believe it or not through like Donald Trump in a sense,
Uh huh.
and I'm not, I just want to say I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not a Trump fan.
Yeah. Neither am
um
I. I didn't
no,
think you were.
but right, but like, I think one of the issues that some pop punk, like I think one of the issues that pop punk may have had, like in the recent times, like trying to break out of itself, like break into the mainstream,
Mm-hmm.
is that the artistic aspect of it took over a little bit. And that's not a bad thing. I don't want it to sound like a bad thing. But like,
Mm-hmm.
when you have songs that have like really complex, meanings and like like lyrics that may not make sense to the general public,
Right.
like right off the bat, like work sucks, I know. Everybody fucking knows that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like everybody knows that, everybody can feel that. But if I was like, um, being in this place is like a prison and I just don't, and
Uh huh.
then, you added something like, I know this is the worst part about my life, but what am I supposed to do? Like, I need the money. Like that's just, you're just extending that and it's more words and it's just like harder to understand like that. You know what I mean? Whereas like a song, you know, it like especially a song like All the Small Things,
Yeah.
it gets that message through really quickly. And just to bring up the Donald Trump thing, I mean, let's be real here. Like the reason why he's so like effective as at like, influencing people at scale,
Mm-hmm.
I think is because he speaks so directly and with so few words. I mean, he basically coined the term fake news, which is like, a term that you can pretty much use to say like, in the past would have been more like, these, this is suspect, or, like, this information
Or
is might not
falsehoods,
be
or
able to be right. And so, but instead, somebody else might like look at that and be like, oh, okay, that's what it means. You know what I mean? So it's just like a quicker thing. So
that makes total sense to me.
yeah,
He because again, like you think of like I think of the last couple of people who have been president, like it's a 3 word phrase. Yes, we can build the wall, or
hmm
or what have you. It's just like what you're saying. It communicates everything very quickly, and to apply a tactic with, I guess, to go on, if to stay on this politician metaphor for a second, because this is really resonating with me. I think about like, especially with like, before we had all the Democratic candidates narrowed down. I think I'll just be straight. I think Elizabeth Warren's ideas were very smart, and maybe too smart for most people.
hmm
If that makes any sense.
No,
If
dude, I totally get what you're saying because I could see that a lot with a lot of like liberal, talking points. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really want to get into too many politics, but like,
Yeah.
like I think a lot of the problem is, you know, there's a lot of diversity in the United States, like
Yeah.
between every different spectrum you can, race, money, everything. You know what I mean? Sexuality, everything. And to say like this set of rules is like, you know it's good for everybody is kind of tough. And then like, with so like Elizabeth Warren, I'm just bringing her up because you mentioned it.
Sure.
Like somebody in Texas may not understand a lot of the problems that, like, say somebody in New York might have. You know what I mean? Or like
totally.
And it might be vice versa too. I mean, one thing I always bring up is like, with the gun laws and stuff, like somebody who lives on the border in Arizona may have a different perspective than somebody who lives, in like Maine or Vermont, you know what I mean? Or Portland, you know what I mean? So cause they just live in different areas, and so like there definitely has to be nuance in some senses, but like in general, like, when you try to convince, like at least like, if we're getting down to it, I mean, some people are thick, some people aren't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't, they're both equally amazing, you know what I mean? So, but like, you can't just like, you have to be able to simplify it in a sense that makes sense, you know what I mean? And it makes sense to a broad audience,
absolutely. And the way I think this applies with music, I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's
you're good. Yeah.
There's this great video of Dave Grohl and Kyle Gass backstage at a festival, and Dave Grohl talks about, think about it like a bumper sticker, "Life's a bitch," and he starts just playing like D, C, G and singing "Life's a bitch" over and over again, and it's like super, and it's instantly like that always gets stuck in my head. I'm like, people probably go to Berkeley and spend thousands of dollars to learn like jazz and like multi-chord substitutions and all of this stuff. I can name like 2 jazz records, and then there's life's a bitch. Or even to go back to Blink and all the small things, the chorus isn't even words. It's just na 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 na.
Right, exactly, right. But like, and let's bring it all the way back to music, because like I said, I'm not a politician. I'm
yes,
I'm
neither
so
am I.
in my comfort zone and in that zone, But like back to music, that like I think people want something they can sing along to. You know what I mean? And instead of it being, and again too, I can't, stress this enough that, if you want to write artistic music and you want it to be a certain way, like you should do that thing, because it might be the next Bohemian Rhapsody. You know what I mean? Like it might be an absolute massive hit. And so, if you're somebody listening to this podcast and you want to write crazy shit, do it. But, in terms of like the music I like to write, which is songs that people can sing along to, you can't try to explore, this really insane metaphor that only like artists have to deal with, you know what I mean? And like all these different words and shit, like it's really got to be like more simple. And like, people hate me for bringing up country all the time, but I mean, can you even get any, like, that's kind of what they do, is it's like everything's about cold beer on a Saturday night. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that's immediately like, oh, I know what that is. You know what I mean? Like that's a feeling. And that's, I think, what I wanted to bring up is that the difference between cheesy lyrics and really heartfelt or the really like impactful lyrics is the emotion that you put behind the performance of the song. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I really learned that firsthand with the songs that we've done, because every single song that we have is a reflection of something that's happened in my life and something that I feel every time I sing that song. And that's crucial, because if I were to just be like work sucks, I know, be like, okay, work sucks, I know,
you can
different.
feel it.
Right, you just want fuck work, I hate work, you know what I mean? Like
exactly. You tap into that's when you're like touching somebody's like heart and soul, like and those moments when you're experiencing like a piece of art are they're, for me, they are rare now that I'm in my mid-30s, but they're so meaningful. Like like I'm looking at the you can't see from here, but I have a poster of this of an anime that I saw a few years ago that just so thoroughly destroyed me and then built me back up in such a glorious way that that I have a poster of it framed, and I have 2 copies of the box set. Like and the other thing I love about the way Goalkeeper writes the way Goalkeeper does songs is you guys you don't, I don't ever feel like you're wallowing. Like even the songs
Hmm.
that are even the songs that are sad, you're processing it in in I hate to keep saying in an adult way, but um, there's a certain amount of like reflective and space from in some lyrics. But before I get into that, I agree completely with your country music metaphor because I've heard punk rock and country described the same way, three chords and the truth.
Hmm.
Um, and and
Country is farm emo, bro. That's not my term. I saw that on the internet.
that is that's beautiful. Farm emo. I totally dig it. And again, like pop punk, like the themes about like getting out of this town and like parting my friends, like, hey dudes, are you ready to? You
Hmm.
could I could I would love to infiltrate the music industry and give the In Friends We Trust idea to like Florida Georgia Line without telling them that it's a band from France, because
Yeah.
I think they could run with that, because again it and especially like that like Walmart pop country that is all about like that's like hanging out with your friends and cold beer,
Hmm.
like 100%. It's party music, and then I feel like people get caught up on like the cultural trappings of who's listening to it, but
Hmm.
if you really break it down, listener, we aren't all that different, and isn't that what great
Hmm.
art is supposed to do?
Hmm.
What I wanted to ask you, and Mark told me that you guys kind of like, because Mark's a therapist outside of the band, that you kind of incorporate some of his. You've asked him about certain things when it comes to like perspectives on like somebody at different times in their life or in a relationship. I'm curious if there are any Goalkeeper songs where his influence really kind of like helped make the song pop.
Mm, not necessarily. Um, it's more like we want to talk to him from like a. I guess we wanted to make sure that we weren't being disrespectful. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean, in a sense, because like um, it's more just like just checking to make sure that like we're not kind of writing a song that's misogynistic or like something that like might come off as being you know um being more of a negative thing than a positive thing, I guess, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
just making
totally.
sure like yeah. But I mean, if you want a song that he directly influenced like in a big way, um when this comes out, the album will be out. So, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But like Black and Blue on our album, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to it or not,
I have.
but
Yes, I've
yeah,
told both Mark and Cody that should be a single.
yeah. Well, Black and Blue, that's when Mark really got to like showcase his like guitar skills and like really
Yeah.
push that. But then like the original song that our first song that we released, Leftovers, he actually gave me that line to use. So like,
Oh, about Wawa.
yeah, no,
Nice.
yeah. And so I was like, or no, 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 it wasn't the Wawa part. It was actually I feel like the leftovers in your fridge that you forgot about.
Oh, yeah, that's a good line.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was like, all right. So I mean, Mark's definitely contributed in other ways, like for sure.
That's awesome. I'm very, I'm very in all of the collaborative nature that you guys kind of all come together to work on the songs. And I have heard the new EP, and I really really enjoyed it. So I can't wait for it to.
Nice.
By the time this is out, it'll be released. I can't wait for other people to hear it, because I feel like I'm sitting on this like really cool secret. I can't wait for other people to
You're
hear it.
getting the inside scoop, man. You're talking to everybody.
Oh my dude, absolutely. By the time this is all over, I will have interviewed everybody in the pop punk scene involved in
Yeah.
remotely connected to your band, and then to the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, right. Where are you out of, by the way?
I grew up in Southern Maryland. That's where I was born and
Oh,
raised.
okay.
But I live in New York City in Queens. My wife and I live in a story. This is actually the first podcast I've done where I can call her my wife because we got married last Wednesday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks, man. It is a crazy and long story. Like our original venue got closed because of the pandemic. Our
Yeah,
original
really.
date got canceled because of the pandemic, and then there's an excellent New York Times article about it. Um, but yeah, we live in Astoria, which is what's uh, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. So if Brooklyn and Williamsburg are where like all the like cool like 20 somethings live, Queens is where they come once they get old like me.
Once they're our age.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are older people in this neighborhood that are just like these new young people coming
Right,
in.
yeah.
Um,
God, go to bed at 9 o'clock already. Jeez.
exactly. Have you guys?
11's too late.
My band practice is like deep in Bushwick. That'll give you a sense of the difference in neighborhood.
Gotcha.
Did you guys have? I know that you guys had a lot of touring planned that the pandemic room, but have you guys like played the New York area yet?
Yeah, we've played Brooklyn. Sorry.
No problem.
We've played Brooklyn. We've played Long Island, and that's like the New York City area. We've played Rochester a few times.
Yeah, Rochester has a good punk scene from what I've heard.
And Fredonia once. That was nuts.
Oh yeah. What was that show?
We were on tour with our friends in Savor, and in the middle of friggin' February, which I don't know why we decided to drive through upstate New York in the middle of February because like that was nothing but snow. But we learned a lot. But like it ended up like Fredonia actually has like a music college. Like I guess there's a SUNY college there. Then it's like more of a music school. So what was funny was we went up there and we were like, all right, what's this house show going to be like? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
who the heck's in Fredonia? You know? And then we get there and it's basically like any other college house when you walk in, and then you go downstairs and they had like a professional PA, they had professional lighting, they had like pong tables, they had like a sound guy, they had like all the chords that you need. Yeah, I mean it was like legit, but like it's all people who want to like own venues in the future, or like they want to be sound guys, or they want to work in the music industry. So it was like incredible. And then the crazier thing was the fact that like there was probably 50 people there, 40, 50 people there, but it's a basement, like a normal sized basement. So it was like packed.
Yeah.
And everybody stayed until the end. Like it wasn't like a normal like college thing, like, or a normal like show. It was insane. And it snowed like nuts like there that day too. So it was like we didn't think anybody was going to show up. But yeah, they came out hard, which was great.
That's awesome. I remember those days where I would like be at shows, and I would get in line for shows like 2 hours before doors sometimes because I wanted to be like right up at the gate. That's incredible, man. I've had similar comedian friends of mine who have like left New York City, have gone on to tell me they've had similar experiences because they're playing places where you don't have a glut of art or comedy to consume, so they're just so into what comes through, and and then to hear kind of like some of the stuff like that you're telling me, and that like Cody and Mark have told me, like you guys are really doing like the thing that every artist wants to do, and that you're building this like community based around what you do, and it's really cool to see, man.
Yeah, we're really motivated about putting out content. You know what I mean? Like that's at the end of the day the biggest thing. Like we've talked a lot about like how can we continue to put out a new song or new video or new EP or new merch or a new tour or what have you, because like we recognize that like the opportunities that have been being presented to us, not every band gets a chance to take advantage of. And so for us, like we take it really seriously, and we want to try to take that to like use that to our advantage, and basically do what we can to do exactly what we've wanted to do our entire lives, which is play fun music for people who want to have fun. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and also like, back to one thing you've been saying today, which is like, the fact that it sounds more adult. Well, I mean, I'm 30, like, so
Uh-huh.
let's just, and Mark's like 27, 28, I think,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, we're already a little older than normal. Cody's like 24, 25, something like that. And so like, so he kind of helps us stay young a little bit, but like,
Uh-huh.
we're not like specifically an 18, like a 16 to 21-year-old band, for sure. Like we're definitely more on, the other side. But with being a little bit older, one of the things that we are able to do is say like, okay, how do we do this? But how do we do this in a way that's sustainable?
Right.
Because like there's so many examples of like bands that are just getting started who like pay out the butt for something early on, and then
Yeah.
like hilarity happens, and then they can't afford, or they got to pay somebody back, and then like there's like arguments and all sorts of shit. And
Yeah.
so it's one of those things that like you don't want to take you don't want to take a risk that's going to put the band at risk of stopping completely. You know what I
Right.
mean? So like with everything we've done, we've like dipped our toe in the water, then we dipped our foot in the water, then we dipped our ankle in the water, then we dipped our all the way to our like shin, and then all the way to our knee. And like hopefully, and then with this record, I'd say we're probably jumping in to like our hips or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
trying to like feel it out, see what we can do. Because if something happened and I lost my job, or Mark lost his job, it would make doing what we want to do considerably harder.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's really important to us to like, like me and Mark just had a really like productive conversation the other day about like what the next like year and a half is going to look like. Or well, we all did. I don't know why, but me and Mark stayed a little bit later and talked about it.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
but like we were talking about it with Cody, and like what the the next like year and a half is going to look like in terms of like what do we want to do if we want to record a new record? What are we going to do if touring happens again? What are we going to do if, whatever? And then we're like trying to get those expectations out there now so that like
Yeah.
we can kind of gauge like, okay, is this too much? Like, is the financial thing too much? All right, let's scale it back and see where we can go.
Yeah.
Or, one thing we're going to try to do a lot more this year is like, try to do more merch stuff, because people like buying our merch.
Uh-huh.
But like we haven't had like usually we'd be on tour and we make a little bit of money, and that money would go towards merch. But because no touring, we haven't been able to do anything. So
Sure.
like everything's out of pocket. So at that point, like we finally got around to getting a really solid. I think it's all going to be released by the time this is coming out. But like, that's the next frontier. Because if we can, like, the thing we keep saying is like, how can we get to how can we get the band to a point where it's generating enough money that we don't have to put our own income into it? You know what I mean? And so
Sure.
with
Yeah.
that kind of mindset, that's when you're kind of like, okay, what is the most optimal way to do it? What's the most optimal way to order merch? What's the most optimal way to tour? What's the
Mm-hmm.
most optimal way to do that? And it's actually a lot. It's a lot, but it's like it's doable. You know what I mean? And if you want to be a band who does that kind of thing, you just have to be able to like look at the potential of like what may and may happen, and then find what makes sense for you. Whether it's you do one tour like for a week for the year, or like or if you want to do like weekenders all year or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or like you want to do what bands like Keep Flying do, and you want to tour for like 8 months of the year,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is like wild, but like, they've set their lives up to do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. It's like finding that balance of like, how can you keep your personal life in check? How can you keep your financial thing in check? How can you keep all these things in check so that you can continue doing what you want to do?
Totally. I think that's incredibly useful advice for creative types. Absolutely.
Actually, too, I mean, it's kind of the same thing with you and your podcast, or
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's trying to start a YouTube channel or trying to start anything like that, because it's like, it takes you time to set up interviews and,
Mm-hmm.
edit down the content and, stuff like that. And, you have to make sure that what you're putting into it, you're getting, it's like you're not taking away from time with your wife, you're not taking time away from your job, you're not taking time away from your family, like, stuff like that. So it's important to, have that shit under control.
Yeah, 100%. I think when I was in my early 20s, I was ready to kind of just throw everything away that wasn't related to furthering my career. But now I actually love like the place I'm at now, because I can have it's in my own way. I'm kind of having it all, and then again to slowly scaling, like this podcast. I can do this every week. I taught myself how to do everything, and then I'm also reliant on the kindness of my friends and strangers for people to talk to, and then just see where it goes. Just see from where it goes from here. Grow bit by bit. And this has been a really lovely conversation, Ryan. I really appreciate you taking time to talk to me. So before we get out here, so both the music video for Graveyard and the new EP, Life in Slow Motion, will be released on September 25th. So if you're listening after that, which you are, they're out now. Is there anything else we can plug before we get out?
No, I think of it. Yeah, listen to the music. Listen on Spotify, Apple Music. Watch check out our YouTube channel. Like, we've got 10 music videos now, so watch all 10 of them. It'll be awesome. Subscribe. Yeah, and just let us know how much you enjoy the music. Reach out via like comment, text, or comment, message. Buy some merch. Just really appreciate the support.
Awesome. And when you guys have new merch, I want a t-shirt, so I'll get a t-shirt.
Dude, we just got a design back that you're gonna be like, holy crap, this is amazing.
Awesome. Well, let me know when I can get it, and you have a sale.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. Thank you for talking to me, Ryan. This has been great.
Well, I had a fantastic time talking to you. Let's do it again sometime.
That sounds great, man. Anytime you want to come back, you just let me know. We could just dissect Blink-182's discography anytime you want.
That sounds good, man.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
No problem.
All right, that's Ryan from Goalkeeper, everybody, and with this episode, that is every member of Goalkeeper has been a guest on Between Awesome and Disaster. So thank you guys for being here. If you enjoy pop punk of any form, you need to check out Goalkeeper's new EP, Life in Slow Motion, which is available wherever you get your music. You can check it out there. It's spectacular. I was able to hear it in advance of release, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's everything that got me excited about punk rock when I was younger. That still excites me now that I'm in my mid-30s. So check out Life in Slow Motion wherever you get your music. If you enjoyed this podcast and think you know a friend who might want to listen to this as well, we've got over almost 180 episodes now, maybe even a little bit over, for your listening pleasure, to help pass the time if you're in quarantine, or if you're in lockdown, wherever you may happen to be. We are available wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and now Amazon Music. If you want to support the show, you can and get a free month of Stitcher Premium at the same time. You can use the promo code AWESOME in all capitals if you go to stitcher.com/premium and sign up with the promo code AWESOME. That will get you 1 month off of free of your Stitcher Premium subscription, which is a great value because I have it and I personally recommend it as well. I also want to give a shout out to my supporter on Patreon at the awesome producer level, Mary Beth Mooney. Thank you so much for your support. I sincerely appreciate it. If you guys are curious about the stuff I've got going on over on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/awesomedisaster. I'm making custom playlists. A EP that I recorded by myself in quarantine is available there as well before I release it to the general public. And thank you guys again for being here. I've said this before, but this year has been a crazy one, and part of staying connected to people is getting to do this podcast. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you next time between awesome and disaster. Stay safe and wear a mask.